In this short learning video, extracted from our e-learning course on Incoterms, we'll talk about the best Incoterms to use when moving containers. The development of container transportation and the related commercial practices, as the one described here in the findings of this study, resulted in the disconnect between the old 2000 Incoterms and the realities of the transportation of containers. This was solved in the 2010 edition of the Incoterms by adding a DAT delivered at terminal Incoterm, and this Incoterm became the DPU in the 2020 edition, and like DAT, still works perfectly for container deliveries to port of unloading, as well as to other locations along the container route. Below are the Incoterms which are recommended to use when working with containers, and they are presented from the point of view of the buyer. If you want your supplier to load the container at his premises, you should choose FCA supply premises. You will provide the container and he will load it. If you want your supplier to deliver to the port of origin and take over from there, you should select FCA container yard at the port. FAS and FOB are not appropriate, as or the container is brought to the container yard, or the cargo is brought to the container yard and stuff stowed, loaded into the container there. Then it is carried from the container yard, stowed on the vessel and transported by a single party. FAS and FOB would end somewhere in the middle of this loading operation and therefore create confusion. FCA does not. If you want your supplier to deliver to the port of destination and bear the risk, you should choose DPU port of destination. For an earlier risk transfer, you can choose CPT or CIP. But you should not choose CFR or CIF, as these do not include the offloading at the port of destination and the transport from there to the container yard, with these two activities being generally part of the scope of the company responsible for the ocean transport. If you were to choose CIF or CFR, the split of responsibility would stop in the middle of these handling operations by the same provider and create confusion. Finally, if you want the container delivered to its final destination, you can choose DAP or DPU by its premises, or CPT-CIP for an earlier risk transfer, or finally DDP if you want your supplier to also handle the import clearance and duties. In a nutshell, the omnimodal Incoterms are applicable for container transportation, and the sea and inland waterway ones, FAS, FOB, CFR and CIF, are not. We hope you enjoyed this video. Don't hesitate to subscribe or use the U10 coupon to get our course at a discounted rate. Thank you for your attention.